Moving on, we have our next session as in conversation session on the topic, Unlocking Potential in the Skills Building a Skill-Based Economy. It's time to have a fresh perspective and strategies on how we hire, upskill, reskill and develop our workforce as the future of business demands it. But unfortunately, the old ways of learning are too slow and engaging in to address fast-changing markets, employers and employees' expectations, and an ever-changing workforce is the need of the hour. Our speakers for this afternoon session are Geetika Goel, Technology Head, Hero Vired. Please give her a big round of applause as I invite her on stage and introduce you to her. Geetika has over 20 years of experience building large technology-focused organizations in diverse domains. She has hands-on and in-depth understanding of technology with an ability to recruit, mentor, and grow other tech professionals. Joining her in conversation is Sriram Rajagopal, founder and director, Diamondpick. Please welcome him onto the stage. Sriram is a founder of a disruptive talent ecosystem that aims to deliver a better employee experience while adapting to business needs. It uses technologies, agile processes, and systems that enable greater methods of acquiring, developing, deploying, and engaging talent. Please give them a big round of applause once again. And I'd like to request the speakers to take the session forward.
Hello.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good. So since it's the first session post-lunch, I'm just checking everybody's okay. So thanks nasscom for the opportunity. This is a very timely topic as we look at a post-pandemic era. Right? All of us went through the pandemic. Many organizations went through a lot of struggle to retain or to actually hold talent together. A lot of them let go of people. And this whole opportunity for reskilling emanated from that time. Right? Pre-pandemic, there was general need for talent. But today, if you look at organizations hiring off of each other, attrition in the 25+% for most organizations, GCCs, IT services, there's no exception, right? Even product companies are looking at a 30–35% attrition. We thought we'd take a quick look at how companies are unlocking potential of employees and how reskilling or upskilling can be an opportunity for retention. Because all of us are in this game. We are hiring people at a cost substantially higher than where they are at today, right? And the employee knows that they can command any kind of premium, and there is somebody out there that's willing to offer that premium. So why not look at existing workforce, upskill them, and pay them a portion of that so that you can retain them. So that's a very interesting problem that some of the organizations are trying to solve based on my own experience with some of the folks that we work with. I thought I will, ask Geetika a set of questions because she's an expert in the upskilling and reskilling field, and she's done a lot of work with a workforce that is Gen Z, that's looking for the next big opportunity. So Geetika, one of the questions that I had for you, so today, not everybody has come back to work 100%, right? Companies are looking at a hybrid workforce model. Some folks, I am told that not more than 10% have expressed interest in coming back to work. So that's going to be a challenge. How can companies make use of alternate skilling strategies to get ahead of the game? And especially larger companies that have so much of in-house training capacity, huge infrastructure, built hotels, learning communities. So you want to get, and all of that is there, and they're all in remote places where nobody wants to go today, right? So they all want to get trained in the comfort of their home, no matter what their bandwidth looks like. So what kind of skilling strategies can companies adopt? Because a Coursera or Udemy or any knowledge-based learning has a certain level of effectiveness. But what kind of completion rate do they have, and how do you recommend people make use of the current, most effective training methodology?
The new ways, yeah. So yeah, thank you, Sriram, for setting the context so well. So let me just first answer a very pinpointed question, and then we'll go ahead. So you brought up Coursera and Udemy. So see, these are pioneers, right? Coursera is pretty much the pioneer in the MOOC world, that is that whole online learning space. And yet their completion rates are like 3%. Okay, so which is like so abysmally low. Okay, and similar is the case with Udemy. I think most of us would have purchased at least 5-6 Udemy courses simply because they have this splash sale of like 300 rupee a course, 500 rupee a course, and after that, do we actually study that? Do we actually read it? I think that will again be a very, very small percentage of people, right? So that is the biggest challenge with these completely online, 100% self-paced kind of courses, right? So now I'll take a step back and what Sriram talked about, attrition, right? So, and very rightly said, most of our companies, right? Most companies, we are dealing with a very high attrition rate, and I think some of the things that really go a long way in holding that is, one, is the company culture. How inclusive I feel, how supported I feel, how productive is the environment, and a very, very learning-centric culture in the company. That is also a part of culture, but why I am calling that out separately is because often when people talk of culture, they talk very, HR-related things. Am I getting birthday cake on my birthday? And those kind of things people might think. So I want to separate out the two, right? Because being learning-centric organization is part of the culture that a company holds. And these days, definitely youngsters, because that's something that I'm seeing firsthand, definitely youngsters want to learn and go ahead, right? So either there are youngsters who have not learned at all. I mean, okay, let me not be very harsh. It's not like people wouldn't have learned at all, but perhaps they did not get enough opportunities, perhaps they did not get enough exposure, but somewhere their learning was to a level where many companies were not able to find them fit for their work, right? So these folks, of course, need to learn, and they realize that very, very well, and which is where they actually invest in companies like, like a Hero Wired, and there are so many edtech companies. But we are also talking about people who are already in the workforce, right? They also feel the need to stay relevant and to grow better in their jobs. They need to upskill. So how do they do that when they are already working in a full-time job, and learning along with working is no easy task. That is a given. It takes enormous amount of time, effort, and motivation to actually continue to learn, right?
So one of the other questions that I had was, today, pedigree is no longer a determinant of the premium that somebody gets. It's a skill that they possess, and the proficiency in the skill that they have that determines their premium. So one school of thought is companies have these upskilling, reskilling programs. Like you said, there is a level of self-paced, personalized learning journey, as they call it. But nothing, at least in my opinion, could replace a live instructor-led session. So how do you see the effectiveness between these two, and are these two coexisting today? In what circumstances are each of these relevant?
Yeah. No, a very, very valid point, because, nothing is singular linear function. Everything really is a function of so many things. So I think this I'll explain a little bit in detail, right? Coming from a learn tech company, and for a lot of, for past many years, I've been working with similar companies. So see, one is that let's say I'm already in a job, okay, and I am faced with a problem, a specific problem, right? In my day-to-day job, if I am faced with a specific problem, at that time, because I need to solve that problem, I need to deliver on something, I will, most of us, right? I'll leave no stone unturned to figure out a solution for that. Now for that, if I get a self-paced video, if I get, some community where my questions are answered, the best would be if my senior could solve it. But let's say this problem was not, very, very common, my senior did not know. So then if my company had a, tech board sort of a thing, where I could pose this question, and if my question got answered, even if some help gets given to me, it makes it very easy for me, right? And there are times where I'm even willing to go ahead and, pay money to get such a help, right? So that is one aspect of learning, because it is on the job and I need it then and there. But then there is another kind where I want to, because I've been doing a job and now I want to upskill. Now what are the, where will I look? Right? I could go to universities, because these days universities also have these programs where I could sign up, and then, it could be a costly thing. And will it fetch me any return? Will I get recognized for it? Will my company value it? Is that even relevant to the company? There are so many questions that a person goes through, right? So if my company is a learning-focused organization, a lot of companies these days, they reimburse if an employee is trying to learn and that learning is, relevant to the company, they are willing to reimburse the cost of certification, right? Because a lot of times these certifications are costly, right? So this is about what are the venues, or what are my, where do I go? What do I look for? Another is how do I learn, right? The learning pedagogy. So when it comes to self-paced, so the first kind where I'm looking for a solution, that self-paced thing works. But if I have to learn for many months together, and I need to spend, let's say, these days we do hear that you are expected to put in 15 to 16 hours per week of effort to actually get a certification. Now that becomes very, very hard. With my full motivation and with all good intentions, even if I sign up for that course, I will somehow make it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And we have seen that data that from 5th week onwards, there is such a sharp dip in that learning that it becomes kind of, in our minds, we would have written off that money, it's okay, jane do. Like, not happening. I'm not able to manage with my full-time job and family and learning. It becomes very hard for most people. Now, there may be 1 or 2% people who might be able to still make it for, with like all kudos to them, but most of the people often see a sharp decline after 4 to 5 weeks of trying to learn in that way. So what we try to do is we try to get to a hybrid model. We say that, okay, all said and done, from childhood we are used to schools, right? So what it means is that we relegate our learning responsibility to our teachers, right? Our teachers know what is a good speed for most people. Our teachers know what time to give assignment and then when to show us that stick as to why didn't you finish your assignment, right? Our teachers reward us, our teachers punish us. They do everything, but all in all, they make us learn. So we said, okay, let's look at that model and see if since that's a familiar model, maybe that is what will work for our folks, even who are working or they are fresh out of college or for whatever reason they have this need to learn. Let's make it very familiar to them, right? So we said that, okay, but again, we cannot have offline classes because that's very hard for working professionals to actually go physically and sit in a class. So we said, okay, we'll have online, but these will be live classes. And now, of course, we need to supplement it with all the reading material. These recordings should be there because, again, we do appreciate that working professionals may not be able to give time every, week after week. So even if you miss, let's say, 1 or 2 classes, you still have those recordings which you can study at your own time. But prominently, you will be guided by a teacher. You will have these classes. You will have the appropriate interventions at all times, like the quizzes and the assignments and the projects. And of course, we also understand that whatever you do, that's what sticks the most. So labs where you can actually do hands-on practice, that's a absolute must. So that pedagogy is very important.
So finally, one thing that I've heard from many organizations, many progressive organizations, where they have self-managed teams and not a lot of infrastructure for MOOC or spend availability, they feel that whatever learning that they go through with the approaches that you talked about, self-paced, instructor-led, they also augment it with a set of communities. Like, for example, Salesforce has a Trailblazer or a Stack Exchange, where anyone who has a problem or a question can post, get it, almost like a Quora for Salesforce. And it's a very robust community. Can organizations build that in-house?
Very, very well said. It is such a fantastic thing to do. Actually, so this is what I'm, somewhere when I said that companies need to have that learning culture, this is what I mean, right? So there are various ways in which we can build a learning culture. One is that we recognize people for the extra learning they do. We, give them chances. We give them better opportunities to excel in what they are doing. And these communities, this is really helpful, and this, I'll tell you one anecdote that, I had some freshers join into my team in one of my previous organizations, and we, as a company, we were trying to just start making it a, learning-focused company. And, so obviously the things that go along with it is that, yes, you can do certification, you will be reimbursed for that, you will get better opportunities, you'll have that skill in your skill set, but also that you'll have these Slack channels where you can discuss your technical problems. But what is happening is that, see, these freshers came in, they've posed a question. Now, unless anybody answers, this community is not going to thrive by itself, right? It could take a lot of time. So as leaders, we need to enforce that. Like, we need to encourage people at all ends to understand that this community is going to actually thrive when everybody contributes, right? It's not only for consumption, it is also for contribution. And if you contribute, we need to gamify that, right? That if you contribute, you will start getting a better badge. If you contribute more, you will you'll get recognized as an expert there. So we have to give them various, carrots to start participating, and just imagine the kind of knowledge that this whole company will now have. So, this is what actually would mean for a learning, like a company with a learning culture. And I think definitely attrition will be lesser here.
Thank you very much for your time. Thanks, everyone. In conclusion, we find that learning skills and career pathways have become business critical. Right? It's no longer it was always a must-have, but it's become business critical because you can always tie back the efforts to business success, and that's what all organizations should be doing. Thank you.
Please give them a big round of applause. We'd like to thank both Sriram and Geetika for that very candid discussion.